And welcome back to episode number 56 of Raise the Banner podcast. It's a little later in the week this time around, but we're here. Friday night. Boys, how we feeling?
Great.
Feeling all right.
Good work week? Nothing too bad?
I mean, it's Friday, so I don't really care about the work week at this point.
Well, I'm saying
Yeah,
how was
Friday,
your
work week's over.
God forbid I ask how your week was, Ben.
It was fine. The week's always too long. The week's always too short.
I see a peep of the new tattoo.
Yeah, maybe it'll make an appearance later.
Right.
Yeah, the week's always too long and the weekend's always too short.
America needs to move to a 4-day work week.
I would not complain.
4 10-hour days. Let me rephrase. No, 4 9-hour days. So it should be
that's fine.
36 hours. Should be full time. Anyways, let's jump into it. New England Patriots. They got their second victory this weekend, pulling what, I don't know, a minor upset, semi-minor upset this weekend.
I mean, weren't they like 7-point underdogs?
Yeah, they were 7-point dogs. Statistically, they were definitely dogs.
Yes, that's a big
upset. So it was definitely an upset.
Odds.
But, you know, the Jets were, 2-5. We were 1-6.
Yes.
Yep.
At home. Tough to call that a major upset. Nevertheless.
I mean, when you're 7-point dogs at home, that's pretty bad.
Based on last weekend, or last matchup win, it was a great win. You know, they looked like completely different teams. So,
and it looks like an even better win because granted, I know they're riddled with injuries, but it looks like a better win with the Jets beating the Texans last night.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's where we'll start. Zach, thoughts? What do you see from the game? What did you like? What didn't you like? What overall thoughts? Good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we talked about the win, good win, especially after Maye went down. I thought Brissett did well. I was a little concerned about him coming in. Like they felt like they had some momentum outside of the just million drops that were on, the receivers. So I was a little concerned initially about Brissett coming in just based on what we had seen, but he did well. I was very impressed with how he, got the ball out quickly and was able to, find, Booty on the goal line as well as some other players. So those were good things. And then Maye continues to look great. He had a couple of great throws. Some were caught, most weren't, which was, I'd say, a downfall of the game. Just kind of further accentuated the fact that this receiving core is just a complete negative for the team. But overall, good. I thought the defense was fine. O-line took a big step forward, which was, kind of a surprise maybe, given just how many injuries and shakeups they've had. So I was impressed by them. But yeah, overall, impressed, and obviously got the win, especially a comeback win down by the goal line there at the end. So I liked it.
Yeah. Ben?
Yeah, I mean, more of the same. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to catch the game Sunday. Both my kids cheer for Pop Warner football, and playoffs started last week. So we had a 12 o'clock game in one town and a 1:30 game in another town. So that was interesting, considering the 12 o'clock game didn't get out till 2. So I was kind of here, there, and everywhere. Saw some highlights. Probably the biggest highlight was and I forget who caught it, but it was the rollout by Maye, throw on the run, up the sideline. Great throw by him.
Who didn't catch it, you mean?
That was a drop. The highlights that I saw were so focused on the mobility and the throw more so
that
than the end result.
Was a Thornton thumper right off his chest.
Hit him in the right spot. The wrong spot's hitting him in his hands. It was a little weird, right? Like, I feel like there's a part of me that's kind of rooting for them to lose as many games as possible to get the nice draft pick, but it's nice to see a win and a division win nonetheless, especially, we just talked about, I just said it a couple seconds ago, I get Texans are riddled with injuries, but, Jets beat Houston, Pats lost to Houston by 20. But obviously, good win to kind of get.
NFL's fun, huh?
Yeah, sort of get out of. So yeah, I feel like there's like a transitive property somewhere that says we're like in a weird way now we're better than Houston because we beat the team that beat Houston. I don't know. So it's in there somewhere, but yeah, I mean, I thought the defense fine from what I saw in highlights. But we'll see if they can carry it into this weekend. Obviously, Drake Maye is a question mark to play. Feels a little optimistic, like he might be out there, but it doesn't happen all that often that somebody who enters concussion protocol on one Sunday and then subsequently plays the following weekend. They're underdogs again, which is kind of sad to see, considering how bad the Titans are. But a win's a win. They still have a top 5 draft pick. But nice to get a division win out of the way and feel good after 6 straight losses.
Yeah, I mean, so when saying the Patriots, we kind of want them to lose games in a vacuum. I kind of agree. That being said, I think this team needed desperately a win. It's different from last year in the sense of Belichick had been there for so long. Now Mayo's taken over, and they need the spark that things are getting better. If things continue to get worse, then the overall vibe or aura that people like to call these days, it will continue to plummet. So I think that this game was big for that, in part for that reason. Getting a win after 6 straight losses is important. I'm not too worried of whether, at least right now, whether they get the 2nd pick, the 3rd pick, the 6th pick. In hindsight, in a perfect world, the team plays well, but they still lose some games and they end up with a top 5 pick, but the meter still looks up. But in terms of this past game, Zach kind of hit it well. I think the defense played better, especially against what is a pretty talented Jets offense. Gonzalez looks as good as you could have ever hoped for. This kid's a stud. The D-line, they played okay. They still don't create a ton of pressure. They stopped the run moderately better. Well, moderately okay. Significantly better than previous games, but moderately okay overall. And offensively, I mean, Jacoby Brissett was kind of the highlight after Drake Maye went out. Maye obviously played very well before he got injured with a couple nice runs, including the touchdown run. Like I said, that bomb Tyquan Thornton was, I mean, it was so pretty. And then, of course, Tyquan Thornton drops it right in his hands. But very important to see Brissett come out and respond the way he did. And it gives you a little hope heading into this weekend that even if Drake Maye is out, which I think he'll play, but even if he is out, it gives them a chance. So you said they're dogs. Realistically, they're on the road, and they're plus 2.5, which home teams typically get 3 points just by being the home team. So Vegas is basically telling us it's a pick 'em.
Yeah,
maybe even a Pats.
ESPN bet has Tennessee at a minus 3.5.
Oh, 3 now. It's 2.5 on, I think, FanDuel that I saw earlier. But either way, take away home field. Vegas thinks it's basically a pick'em game.
Yeah,
I think they have a good.
DraftKings is 3.5.
Wow, maybe it went up. But anyways, yeah, they have a good shot. I mean, maybe they know Brissett's playing, or they think Brissett's playing, and that could be what has pushed the line. I'm not entirely sure. With Drake Maye's playing, 3.5 seems like pretty damn high for how bad the Titans are. But anyways,
yes,
they have a good shot. I know L'Jarius Sneed is out for the Titans. We don't know if Will Levis is playing or not. He's been limited this week. So we'll see. Vegas-wise, Vegas doesn't even know who either starting quarterback was for the team this week. So we'll probably see a low-scoring game that ends up in a close game, hopefully, at the very least. And I'm fairly confident that Pats can kind of pull something like that out. Are you guys feeling the same type of confidence heading into this weekend?
Yeah, I think as you were going through that, I was thinking Will Levis was playing, and I don't know who their backup is. But
Mason Rudolph.
Okay, then that isn't any different. I think
it might be better.
It might be better. Yeah, you're right.
Although
if Drake Maye plays, it's probably 60-40 if it's Patriots win. If it's Brissett, maybe more 50-50. Both of them, both quarterbacks, Brissett and Rudolph or Levis are pretty evenly matched.
Ben, you got something to say? You were mumbling there for a second.
For a minute, yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. I didn't mean to cut you off there. No, I was gonna say, and I forget who tweeted it, Matt. I think you shared it to me or retweeted it, I think, and I forget who it was. So don't quote me on the person who said it, but somebody coming out of the draft said that
Merrill Hodge. I already know it. You don't even have to say the quote.
I was gonna say it sounds like something Merrill Hodge would say. He's like Drake Maye is Mason Rudolph with less arm talent.
Merrill Hodge. That
like less arm talent and like not as good mobility or something. I'd have Matt if you want to.
I think it was him.
I thought it was Kurt Bankert or whatever, but one of the two.
Oh no, it might have been. He might have been quoting Merrill Hodge's post. Merrill Hodge basically said that Maye was going to suck.
Okay.
And I think he quoted Merrill Hodge and said that. I knew exactly what you were talking about because I literally had an argument with some guy on X over Drake Maye, and he brought up Merrill Hodge's post. And so I went back and gave him all the all the scouting reports of Merrill Hodge over the years. And one of them was like Zach Wilson is going to be a superstar. Justin Fields is going to be a stud. I was like, here you go, buddy. Like, sure, his opinions really matter here. No,
but anyway, and like couple quotes, like not to go off on a tangent, but he's like, so Hodge on Maye, extremely inconsistent, processing inconsistent, not extremely athletic. I find him to be stiff. And then he said that Drake Maye is the type of player that when you draft him, that kind of decision gets you fired. So anyway, but no, I just thought it was funny that it's like if we end up with Mason Rudolph against Drake Maye, we'll have to see if Merrill Hodge tunes in to see if Mason Rudolph is a more athletic,
what's his name again?
Player.
It's Burkhardt. Is that his name?
Bankert.
Oh yeah.
Patriots for a while, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like self-proclaimed himself as like a sports guru.
Yeah, he's on Madden. And like, okay, watch if I can go beat cover 2. He's like all over NCAA and Madden, like showing us how to read defense. That's what he's good at now.
No. I mean, that was a good call, Ben. I mean, that was a very funny comparison. I'm really holding off of going back on receipts on Maye because I do want to he's only played 2.5 games, so I don't want to pump the horn, I guess you could say, a little too early. But I mean, the dude just looks like he can play.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I didn't tell you he was a rookie, if I had told you this is a year 3 guy that's been starting, he's been starting for 2.5 years, I think that you would probably say it looks like that. He feels
the pressure well, and he gets out of the pocket and moves around better than I would have expected him to do at this point. So
yeah, and the nice thing that I like, and I hate doing these kind of comparisons because we're talking about the greatest of all time, right? But Brady had zero mobility. Like he was the opposite. Like his mobility rating on Madden should have been like a -12. But if you looked at his ability to navigate the pocket, he felt pressure better than most anybody I've seen. And I mean, I'm a little older than you guys, so I just have more TV hours of watching football. But he felt the pressure.
I won't make a joke.
He processed. I mean, if you really want to know, my prune juice is primed and ready to go for when the podcast is over.
It's on the nightstand next to
it's on the nightstand. Bingo was Wednesday. That's why I wasn't available. I lucked out. It's November 1st. Social Security checks in the mail. It's great. So the thing about Drake Maye is, and again, he's not Tom Brady, right? Like nobody is or probably will ever be Tom Brady. But one thing that made Brady great was his ability to navigate in the pocket. He could feel pressure from, like most quarterbacks, you can't really avoid pressure that's right in your face, right? Especially for a guy who had no athletic ability like Brady did, at least legs wise. But I look at Maye and I draw comparisons to his mobility within the pocket, his ability to feel pressure and extend the play. And it reminds me, it's okay, guys like elite quarterbacks like Brady was very good about that. Manning was good about that. Like Rodgers is very good moving in the pocket. Mahomes.
I would just say good, like part of being a great quarterback. Great quarterbacks can do that.
Yeah, and obviously he's got a long way to go to prior to be considered great, but you can see like glimpses of if they can shore up the offensive line, if they can add talent around him. Now, granted, like Drake Maye, and I hate to say it like that because it's like, okay, well, what? You got to put a perfect situation around Drake Maye for him to be successful because we hammered Mac Jones for that. That's why we liked Drake Maye, at least us. Zach, I don't know how you felt like where you fell with the quarterback rankings coming out 6 months ago. But like, at least for like Matt and I, we had talked about how one of the reasons we didn't love a guy like J.J. McCarthy more so than a Drake Maye was we didn't feel like he was built to be the guy that would elevate the roster in spite of the supporting cast, right? Like McCarthy, Mac Jones, like those guys need the situation to be perfect. Like Brock Purdy, maybe to an extent, although I kind of believe a little bit more in him, and we'll see. I mean, they've done pretty well despite the fact that obviously Ayuk's gone, whatever. But Maye doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. Like the operation looks better with him at quarterback, and you can see glimpses of the pocket presence, the awareness, the eyesight downfield, the arm talent, and like the whole package. You can see the glimpse of what they saw in him on tape, what they probably learned about him in interviews, pro day, combine, like the whole 9 yards when they were scouting him pre-draft. You were seeing glimpses of what they talked about, why they really like Drake Maye, and it's encouraging to see that, if they shore up the offensive line, which a mobile quarterback I think helps mitigate some of the offensive line issues because, if there was pressure on Brissett, he was porked. He wasn't moving at all. But Maye can avoid pressure, extend plays. So if they could just add talent, like teams need talent. I mean, look at a guy like Mahomes. Yes, Look at Mahomes. Like, yes, the Chiefs are undefeated, but like Mahomes is having, for all intents and purposes, a very mediocre season statistically. And, like they've got a good defense. He's got a good supporting cast, but like he's not statistically blowing guys out of the water. So if you can put talent on this Patriots team, and I'm not saying I'm surprised I'm seeing it this early, but they were really, I felt like building this team for next season. That, develop Drake Maye, add the talent, and then you can kind of take off. And maybe next year you're a wild card team. Maybe 2026 you're really challenging Buffalo for the division. But like, I think this is going to come a lot sooner. If they can add talent for 2025, I really think this team's ready to compete for a division championship in less than a year. Like week 1, 2025, if they correct the offensive line and add talent around Drake Maye, I would absolutely argue with you that the Patriots would challenge Buffalo for a division title next year.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the concept of, if you have a top 10 quarterback, your team is generally at least decent, right? Yeah. I mean, what top 10 quarterback in the league right now is 2-6 or 3-7, whatever it may be. So if Drake Maye develops and heading into next year, we can comfortably say, he's a top 10, top 12 quarterback. And I mean like active who would I want? Top 10 guy. Things that alone gives you a floor in the NFL to say, hey, we're at least going to be a competitive team. We're not going to be a team that goes 3-14 like that. It just doesn't happen when your quarterback's that good. And then combine that with the fact that, they have a ton of money to spend. They're probably going to have a top 10 pick to add, to the offensive line or another weapon. They're going to have the money to go add potentially a premier receiver, at least 1 or 2 big names at O-line. And they have the money to go add like a stud or 2 defensively too. Realistically, there's not really any limitations of how much they can add next offseason because they have a projected like 100 and
it's like 30 or it's like 160 million in cap space.
So when you talk about like, you sign a guy to a, let's say, $15 million a year AAV, like his year 1 salary is often like $7 million in terms of cap hit. His 7, you know what I mean? So they have the room to add a ton of weapons. So when we talk about if they're competitive or not next year, you're right. I mean,
Yeah,
they could realistically be a very competitive football team again if Drake May is the real deal. I mean, that's obviously what it comes down to.
Yeah. So looking at it, and I don't know. Oh, here we go. So the Patriots, so cap space next year. So I was looking at the wrong thing. The Patriots next season, assuming nothing changes between now. I know the trade deadline's in 3 days. So unless they do anything and it messes with the numbers, as of right now,
the NFL was like, "Hey, you know what we should do on election day? Let's have the trade deadline." It's like if we need any more chaos,
it'll be an exciting day nonetheless. But as of right now, the Patriots currently have the most projected cap space for 2025 at 131, just under 132 million, 131.8 million dollars in space. And then behind them, you've got the Commanders at 121, Arizona just under 119, Raiders at 108, and they're the only teams there's only 4 teams with 100 or more million in cap space, and then you start getting into the 70s and below. And then thank God we're not the Saints because they're projected to be $62 million over the cap.
Don't even get me started on the Saints, man.
But yeah, so they'll have a ton of money to spend, and they don't have a ton of dead money. The Patriots only have $5.6 million in dead money next year. So
on top of that, too, though, like, and this is where it's even a little bit more impressive. They don't have any really big name that they need to resign now.
No.
I mean, Doug is locked up.
Who's currently on an expiring deal?
I mean, on the O line,
in general,
Andrews has 1 more year, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if Andrews has. I think he has 1 more year. I mean, Stevenson's locked up. All the wide receivers, other than Osborne, are locked up.
Jonathan Jones is the biggest one I can see now.
Yeah, Henry's locked up.
So Jonathan Jones is an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, and I mean that's I like him. He's a good ball player, but like he's 31 years. He's going to be a 31-year-old cornerback.
He's your second corner. Like outside of that, though, there's really no one else. Raekwon McMillan, KJ Osborne,
Brissett. There's no major. Yeah, there's no major piece. Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to jump too far.
If he wants to play ball, I would say bring back Jonathan Jones. But there's really nobody else on the roster that I'm like, this guy. We gotta retain this guy.
Yeah. So and I don't want to jump too much into like off-season talk as a whole, but they're going to have all the money in the world to add to this team, and there's going to be really no limitations. Like we talked about, in a perfect world, the team, the arrows pointing up for them, but they still put themselves in a position where they have like the 3rd pick or the 4th pick, and they can slide back a little bit, add extra assets.
Yeah. And if you look at it, like we're talking about, like, not to drive down the rabbit hole of free agency, but I mean, the young, like, and I'm talking like top end guys, whether you want to call them a wide receiver 1 or not, we can debate that, but arguably they should probably be targeting T. Higgins the most because he's going to be 26 and he's hitting the market. Everybody else is hitting the market. Diggs will be 31. Keenan Allen will be 33. Cooper's 30. I mean, Godwin will be 29. I'd be okay with that. I mean, between the two of them, like T. Higgins is more of a 1 than Godwin is, in my opinion. And he's 3 years younger than Godwin. So
who do the Bengals play this weekend?
Who do the Bengals play?
Yeah.
Let's see. The Bengals, I have it. They are home against Vegas.
All right, so let me throw a hypothetical at you.
Yes, I would trade a 2nd-round pick for T. Higgins if the Bengals lose this weekend.
Oh, I would not send a 2. I'm not sending like the 30.
I'd send 2 thirds, 2025, 2026 thirds.
I don't even think it would take that much for an expiring deal.
I mean, but you got to think about it, right? If they're going to trade for T. Higgins, they're not going to do it unless they have the assurances he's signing a deal.
Correct, but
if the Patriots are not in a position to win, so they would not trade for T. Higgins without the assurance that he's signing
correct.
Probably want.
But in terms of his value, like it's either A, he's an expiring deal, or B, he's a quarterback wide receiver that you have to give the bag to. You know what I mean? It's not like you're trading for a guy that has low money already great contract. I don't think it would take 3. I think the Pats third, which would theoretically be around the 100th pick.
Yeah.
No,
give or
no,
take.
it'd be no.
Oh, excuse me.
It would be like the 60.
Excuse me. The 100th is the end of the third. Yeah. So we're talking about a top 70-ish pick.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think
And
the 70th
just
would
like
be
this. So, and 2025. What? Now this is well. Let me do the whole. Let me see. Can I get the whole contract? Here we go. So full contract wide receivers average per year. You figure T. Higgins is going to want what? High between 28 and 32, like somewhere in that range, right? Is that
He's not going to get that.
No, but I didn't say what he's going to get. What's he going to ask for? He's probably going to.
He'll probably. I think he'll be
30.
28.
Yeah.
So
28 to 30, but he won't get that
per year. These are the wide receivers that are making 28 million or more per season. Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek, Ayuk, Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. With only the top 5, JJ, Lamb, Brown, Ayuk, and Hill are the top 6. Those are the only guys making 30 plus.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's most likely to land around 26.
So that puts him in. Devontae Smith is making 25. Cooper Kupp is 26.7. DJ Moore is 27.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's his range. I think he's a low-end wide receiver 1, a high-end wide receiver 2. I have trouble calling him a legit
would you say
1.
DJ Moore is a high-end 2, low-end 1?
I would say Moore is better than Higgins.
Okay, I was gonna say because Moore is at 27.5 million. So I was like, is that your benchmark? That like
if you ask me who I would rather for this year or in the next couple of years, I would probably take DJ Moore.
Fair enough. Okay, so yeah, so and if he's making 27.5, then it's probably going to need to be somewhere in the neighborhood. So let's see, DJ Moore got.
And considering that the prices always go up, I think he'll be around that. Like I think he'll be in the 26 to 27 range. Maybe he beats more or matches more, something like that. And seemingly the Patriots are not afraid to give that out. They obviously offered a pretty reasonable deal to Ridley, who, looking back, I'm not very upset that they missed out on him. And they supposedly offered beyond the bag for Brandon Ayuk.
Which, again, looking back, I'm okay not getting him up.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because obviously we can't predict injuries and stuff like that.
But even before then, though, he wasn't great. He was dropping balls, and he wasn't, good. Obviously,
yeah, I think he came in out of shape.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was holding out. So the deal that DJ Moore got was 4 years and 110. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's.
And given his age, I would say Higgins probably wants a 5-year deal. Given that you'd get him from ages. Well, 5 years. 5 years. How many
receivers have gone 5 years? Did St. Brown get 5 years?
JJ got 5.
I think, right? Or 5.
Didn't JJ get 5? No, JJ got 4.
4.
What did ACB? ACB only got ASB.
Oh, ASB. He got
4. Yeah, so 5's not happening. He's not going to get it.
So you figure 4 year, 4 105, between 105 and 110 is probably what you'd have to offer T. Higgins to get him to come here. And I put an asterisk on that. They might have to go over to convince him to come here. Maybe.
Yeah. It's to go back to the original question in a general sense. If the Bengals were to lose this weekend, I would imagine that Higgins is gone by Tuesday. They should not keep him.
I mean, and if you think
what's their
about
record?
it, though, right? Like,
what are they? 3-5?
3-6. Is the deadline this week or when is
they're 3-5. So if they fall to 3-5, at best at 3-5, they'd be 2 games behind Baltimore and 2.5 games behind Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so they'll be in a
worst case scenario, add a game to those numbers. So at 3-6, you're basically 3-6 after week 9. You're basically dead in the water.
Yeah, the odds that you make playoffs are under probably 10%.
Yeah, because so I went back and looked, and I don't think I was talking to you, man. I think I was talking to a buddy of mine. No team outside of being a division winner has qualified for the playoffs with a sub 500 record. That includes the expansion to 7 teams per league. The worst record to ever make the playoffs as a wild card team is 9-8, and it's only happened once.
Yeah, you generally have to get like 7 is the bare minimum maximum losses that you can.
Yeah, if you're 9-8, you're hoping that you have help to get the 7 seed. Like 10-7 is more or less like that's the only way to more or less guarantee a playoff spot.
Yeah, and so again, if they lose this weekend, which I would imagine they're definitely favorites, and I would bet on them winning.
Yeah, they're a touchdown favorite, especially at home.
But if they were to lose, and really, even if they were to win,
they're 0-4 at home, by the way.
Yeah, so they're in a spot where, especially if they lose, they are going to say, okay, we're sitting at 3-6. The odds we make playoffs are about 1 in 15, 1 in 10 at best. We have an expiring deal that we could absolutely get at least like a 3rd round pick for. Do we do it? And the answer has to be yes.
Yeah.
Because someone will give a 3rd round pick for Higgins. Maybe you could get a late 2 for him, perhaps, in the right situation. But if you're the Pats, if Cincy comes and says, hey, we'll give you T. Higgins. T. Higgins says, hey, I'll sign for, let's just say, DJ Moore's deal at 110. Is it something you guys do?
100%.
Obviously in the offseason.
What was the trade? Like, what are you giving up to get him?
It would be your 3rd round pick. So a high 3.
Just 1 3rd-round pick?
Yeah. And you got to give him you're agreeing basically, well, not basically, you're agreeing in principle. You get the chance to talk with Higgins for a few hours, and you agree to a 4-year, $110 million deal.
Yes, I do that.
I do that.
So
I think I'm in a similar boat. It's tough because he's going to be a free agent. So it's like, hey, do we want to give up a 3rd round pick, a high 3rd round pick for a guy that we could possibly get for nothing other than money a few months from now? But if it means getting him here and just getting him here and locked in and not having to compete, yeah, I think I would too. Especially the fact that they also have Atlanta's 3rd that kind of helps relieve that.
Oh, true.
That concept.
All right.
I mean, so if we don't get Higgins and he says, I'm not coming here, like that further proves you don't have to win every game to end, the season. Obviously, we're not going to win every game, but it shows some signs of progress, signs of life in here. So to prove or to, prove that to players who potentially could come here that we're not just a lying dog and we're not going to, have to show some.
Yeah. Well, and it will help May. It will help May over the final 2 months of the season. Like you're adding a legit weapon to him.
Yeah.
You would seemingly have to, you would be shipping out probably Thornton and Osborne in that situation.
Yeah.
Just dump. And by shipping them out, it could be a cut, for all I know. But if that opportunity is on the table, I think that you jump on it. And I'm not the biggest Higgins guy. Like I just said, I don't necessarily view him as a bona fide 1. But the fact of the matter is he would be the best receiver we've had here since, I don't know what, Prime Edelman back in 2016, 8 years.
Yeah.
And Edelman was what, a wide receiver
3,
a low end 1.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Edelman was a 1. I mean, we used him that way, but I wouldn't say he didn't have that. He had
in his prime, he was a low end 1. In his best 2 or 3 years, the problem was he had a 7-year career.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean. And a couple were injured. He missed an ACL. but in his prime, I think he was there. We got a comment. You say build the old line. Should be, yeah. I mean, it is going to be the number one priority into the offseason.
And
we're talking right now because I mean tackles don't really become available that often midseason. We did see Cam Robinson moved, which would have been a move that I think I would have liked. I don't know if he doesn't want to talk contract and stuff like that, and that would have changed things.
yeah,
But theoretically, that would have been another move that would have potentially worked. But adding Higgins now obviously tells gets him in the door, and it crosses off a top 3 need. Boom. And it gives the Patriots and their fan base a complete, hard, straight up, sign and statement that says, we're willing to put in the work. We're willing to spend the money.
Yeah.
And obviously Kraft has a little bit of his reputation has taken a hit over the last few years about being cheap and all that.
There's
So
other players too, like, hey, like T. Higgins just signed here, so something's going on. He had to hear something outside of just money, because money can be paid by anybody. So that opens the door for other people who want to potentially sign.
Yeah, and if Higgins and Maye shows up, like if they're a good connection in the second half of the season, and the offense is on the rise and stuff like that, you're an outsider saying, hey, like, this team's got a damn good quarterback that's on a rookie contract. Like, I could go be part of something that builds up from the ground up and be something special in New England, obviously.
Yeah, and to go back to that comment on X, they'd probably have to draft somebody, because I'm looking at the free agents for 2025. I mean, it's better than last year. Not that was very hard, because last year's crop of offensive linemen wasn't very, especially at tackle, was not very good. But
it was awful last year.
But like Cam Robinson will be a free agent.
Garrett Cole, I saw.
Yeah, the tackle spot in free agency this year is
better,
way better. It's way better than last year, but still not anything.
But the problem is do you really want to give a 4 to 5 year top of the market deal to a 30-year-old left tackle?
Well, I don't think
I don't know if I want to do that. No, if you want to bank on a guy who maybe he didn't pan out that good, couple of young guys. So, like the young tackles that are on the market. Patrick McCarry out of Baltimore is 27. Jedrick Wills from Cleveland is 25. Alaric Jackson from the Rams, 26. Like, those are younger guys that maybe just haven't panned out with their teams, and maybe they see something and they can coach it up to where they don't have to go give Cam Robinson $20 million a year at 30. Like, I don't know if I want to do that. Whereas I'd rather, it seems like there's more high-end availability at the wide receiver position in free agency, to where if that becomes the free agent target, Godwin, Higgins, probably the two guys at the top of my list just because of their talent and their age. Like Keenan Allen's out there, but I don't want to pay Keenan Allen. He's old. That to me would be a better path. And then, if you're sitting there with a top 5 draft pick, like you'll probably have your pick of the litter at tackle, whether it's, Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks, high in the first round, like who knows? But it seems to me like the better path forward. Yes, we have to build the offensive line, but you'll probably have to draft that position, because I get we need a tackle. I don't know if I want to give $20+ million a year to a 30-year-old left tackle.
Yeah, well, that and one that none of them are necessarily going to be worth what they'll probably get on the market.
Like Cam Robinson right now is making $18 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll get something like that in free agency, but Cam Robinson is going to probably cost. Someone will give him like 2 years, 30, something like that. And so is that worth it if you're the Patriots?
Maybe.
I mean, perhaps. We'll see where things are at the end. They could absolutely sign someone like that just to say, hey, like, we at least have this. And, we at least have a serviceable, and I would say at least league average tackle at left tackle. Now, Verderian Lowe has been playing decent football. I don't want to certainly not go as far and say that he is, entrenching himself as the left tackle of the future. I'm not going that far. But at the moment, he's playing some decent football, and he's protecting Drake Maye and I guess Brissett last week. Relatively, what is the word we use from the start of the season? Serviceable. That's kind of all we've basically been asking, and he's been that the last few games. So we'll see. Health seems to be his biggest issue, but it was good find by Belichick at last offseason. And what was it? The start of the season, he took him from
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Trade for him, or was he
fifth round pick? I think they sent for him.
I guess we
can.
So,
yeah, I mean, a solid ad. We'll see when what's his face? Caden Wallace is supposed to be back within the next probably 2 weeks. We'll see where things play out there, but they have all the money in the world to add this offseason. So
$131 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, we kind of obviously went off the rails there, getting too deep into the talking about the Patriots offseason in middle of the season, but Drake Maye looks like the future, and that's all I fucking care about.
So true.
That's all I care about. Boy, am I going to be insufferable on X if he is the stud.
I hope so. I'll bring the popcorn. I'll be there for it. But the nice thing, given what we've seen out of 2 games and half a quarter out of Drake Maye, it's nice to be able to sit here and look forward.
Each week. I just want to see him play.
2 months. 2 months the season's over, basically, right? So we look ahead and 2 months from now, we're going to be talking about, okay, lead into the draft. 2 months from now, we're going to have a way better concept of, not a full picture, but we'll have a way better picture of what the college draft class is going to look like. Who are the emerging guys that are going to go, top 5, top 10. But it's nice to sit here and go, okay, what we've seen tells us that unless things really go sideways, we have our quarterback of the future. We just have to make sure that we do right by Maye, right scheme, right coaching, right players around him, right culture, and kind of let him do his thing. It's nice to sit here and go, okay, we can dream a little. A year ago, we were all right, we know Mac Jones isn't the guy. He can't finish games. Zappy's going to come in. The fan base is divided on, who they support. So there's public shaming both ways. The coaching staff is getting it all wrong. And, Bill O'Brien is basically trying to put out dumpster fire after dumpster fire. That's what we were doing a year ago, is being okay, well, clearly the quarterback position is a player of need. But now that we have that squared away, seemingly, it's nice to dream and go well, what toys can we give Drake Maye to play with this winter?
Yeah. It even feels better in the sense that in Mac's rookie year, it felt like we were Bill was protecting him in a way that we felt that he didn't need to be. And then it came out maybe that was, for good reason, because his arm strength wasn't good, and his attitude more so than anything else was just abysmal if things went wrong. We talked about it before in the podcast. Drake Maye came from chaos where Mac Jones felt like he needed to be, everything be perfect. We talked it's everything from the turmoil around the offensive line to the receivers dropping balls and whatever else. And he blames himself more so than the receivers, where I think it was the opposite for Mac. So I think just his headspace alone is leaps and bounds better than Mac Jones was. And it gives, as you said, Ben, it gives so much confidence going into the offseason and in the future. Okay, this guy can, if let's say Van Pelt for whatever reason moves on, I feel much better about giving him a different playbook to learn. I don't want that to happen, but I feel better about it than giving Mac Jones, for example, because everything needs to fit.
A lot of it, I think, for us in fans in general is the upside. I think we all felt I was a Mac Jones fan coming out of college. I thought he could be a good quarterback. The way I described him was, his ceiling was maybe a little better Kirk Cousins, which could be a very good quarterback. Yeah.
Mac.
That was
we thought with the right circumstances, Kirk Cousins was kind of what we had pictured.
Yeah, his peak was a slightly better Kirk Cousins, something like that, which would be a a damn good quarterback in this league. Kirk Cousins
Yep.
is a good ball player. But we also felt like, that was his peak, but most likely, the average of what he could be on the good side was like a low end Kirk Cousins. So even when he was playing well as a rookie, we were excited, but it was a level of excitement like, okay, he can be solid, like he can be good. With Maye, it's like it gives you the kind of the jitters watching him play. Combine that with like what we kind of believed in him coming into the draft and saying like, again, we're 2.5 games in, so I don't want to like blow the horn too fast, but like it looks like he could be a stud. And so it's just like it's a different level of excitement that we felt with Mac Jones. I don't know who you're looking at, Zach, but
I can't open the door. Sorry. So I was like, what are you doing?
Like you can see the ceiling is much, much higher with Maye, which we knew, right? Like, which not to go down this rabbit hole, we don't have to do this, but like the people that were like, oh, he'll just be Sam Howell or Mac Jones 2.0. And it's like, well, he has an entirely different skill set. So saying that didn't make any sense, but you can see the skill set that we saw on film is translating to the NFL. Like that's a big question mark. Does what you're doing in college translate to the NFL? You're seeing it, and you can see that like the sky's really the limit if they do this correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we were both so high on him, so it's tough to not get a little bit extra giddy with the concept of being right too. I think, like, not gonna lie, like the idea of like the fact that I guess we were like pounding the table to take him, and then he ends up being good is a little bit extra like sweetness. But yeah, I mean, it's a different level of excitement that ever could have been with Mac. Yeah, because we know that the ceiling is like we always felt with Mac that like, okay, the ceiling was like a good quarterback that could make us a competitive football team, be a playoff team. Maye gives you shades of like he could be a stud, and I don't want to compare him to Mahomes, but like that type of excitement where like maybe this guy could be actually like a superstar player. So that's kind of the difference, and it makes you actually like I just want to see the dude play. I just want to like keep what it makes us for the first time in years like genuinely excited to watch football games for the New England Patriots.
I agree. It feels like you don't have to walk on eggshells around who you're bringing in for Mac. Is he going to be the right person? It feels like you can just let Drake play and know and have confidence that he's going to be, he's going to go out on Sundays and show out, whether it's with, a T. Higgins or whether it's with, Tyquan Thornton. He's going to show up. So,
yeah.
All right. I do want to transition. We'll do about 15, 20 minutes of the Boston Red Sox. The LA Dodgers won their second championship in 4 years, I think? 5 years ago. Mookie Betts has his third ring, 2.5 if you want to.
Thanks, John Henry.
If you want to question the COVID ring, but 3 rings. We'll say. The offseason's here. We've already seen a trade. Jorge Soler was dumped to the Angels. The Angels said, you know what? Mike Trout, injury prone, needs to play DH. So what are we going to do? We're going to trade for a guy that can only DH. Boom. Great start to the offseason. But the Red Sox offseason's here. Alex Spear made a comment the other day that I want to talk about and address. He was asked, what would you predict as like the biggest move for the Red Sox contract wise? And he said I could see a deal over $100 million. Now that doesn't say a ton. Like that doesn't give you a lot of info because 6 years, $100 million isn't very much of a big contract these days. But Max Fried at 6 years, $150 million could be.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you guys see? What's the threshold pitching wise where you guys would say it was an acceptable? Now, again, this is tough because like this question would depend on what they do hitting wise, but just a base, what is an acceptable offseason in terms of the pitching rotation?
I guess I took his Alex Spears $100 million comment as anyone. I didn't take it as a pitcher, but so Milliken today had a tweet. I think it was today, from someone predicting like a Jack Flaherty and I'm gonna butcher the guy's name, but Kikuchi, I think.
Yep.
From
The
from Detroit.
That was Milliken. I think he was quoting Spear.
Jim Bowden.
Jim Bowden. That's what.
Yeah. I think Spear quoted him too.
So if it's something like that, right? You get. I'm high on Jack Flaherty. I got tweeted out right as he gave up a bomb to Stanton. Like, he's who you want in Boston, right? Your game one starter. I'm a big fan of Flaherty. So if you get someone like him and another pitcher, and then you save your $100 million contract for like a righty bat. I don't even know off the top of my head who would be $100 million bat out there. But like, if you do something like that, who?
Alex Bregman.
Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
Pete Alonso, but you have to trade for him probably, wouldn't you? Or is he you?
No, he's a free agent.
Oh, then yeah. So if you do like a Pete Alonso plus two pitchers, then I would consider that to be like a successful offseason. You're addressing both of your biggest needs, righty bat and starting pitching depth as well. So something like that is kind of the framework that I'm hoping that this team finally follows.
Ben, how about you?
So I kind of go more of a broad route. My preference, right, and Matt, I've said this to you. I probably embellished a little bit. I think I said it would be an abject failure if they don't go out and get a frontline starter. Maybe not that aggressive of a statement, but like, to me, given what this team needs and they don't have a frontline starter. So whether they acquire somebody via trade or sign a guy like a Max Fried, like, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Like, Jack Flaherty, fine, but like, is Jack Flaherty a number one? No, he's not an ace.
I think he's a good two.
He's a decent two. And I mean, depending on how they shape out the rotation, I mean, in theory, right, if they only sign Jack Flaherty, you've got Flaherty, Mayo, Giolito, assuming health, as your top three guys. So
you'd have Hoke.
Well, to me, Houck's a 3 at best.
I have Houck along Mayo, but
yeah, I feel like at this
and
moment,
I'm sorry, that wasn't in any particular order. I was just talking about like the top 3 guys in your rotation. Like if they sign Flaherty, it would be Flaherty, Mayo, Giolito would be probably your top, like 3 of your top 4 at worst. If you want to say Houck is your 3 and Bayo is your 4, fine, whatever. But they don't have that. Like, you're still lacking a number 1. So like, to me, like, Corbin Burns is going to set the market. The one trend I don't love with Corbin Burns is his strikeout per 9 has gone down every year, I think for 3 years in a row now. I haven't really seen I haven't done the research to check into his velocity to see how that's trending lately, but that tends to be a marker of a guy who's on a decline. Is the average fastball velocity dropping over an extended period of time? But for me, it's like, I don't know if I want to go out and get Corbin Burns. I think he's going to get north of $200 million. And the long-term health is concerning a little bit. But like Max Fried, and like, I don't think you're going to get Fried and Flaherty, although Fried, Flaherty, and Giolito are all former high school teammates, and apparently they're best friends.
Yeah, they're boys.
Take that for what it's worth. I don't know how much that really matters at the end of the day when it comes time to talk dollars and cents. But I think, when was it before game 1, Fried and Giolito were talking to Flaherty before game 1 of the World Series? Like, they went to the game, something like that, right?
Not to cut you off, but so for Burns' velo on Baseball Savant, let's see, 2021, he was a 93 percentile at 96 miles an hour. It dropped down to 96.8. Then it dropped to 96.3. Then it dropped to 95.3.
This is velocity or percentile?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then velocity. And this year said 97. So it went up from last year to this.
Okay. Well, he's also pitching in a contract year, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But
his K rate went way down.
His K rate's been down.
His K rate was at 51 percentile this year, which comparatively.
He's been in like the 70 or 80 percentile, I think. He's been
Yeah, so 19 he was 84, 96. 2021 he was 97%. Holy shit, was he good in 21? 89 percentile. And then he dropped to the 65 percentile in 23, and then he was obviously at 51. So you went from a top 15 percentile in strikeouts to a middle of the pack strikeout pitcher in 2 years. So that's a huge question for Breslow to say,
like,
is this trend gonna? Yeah, why? Why is that happening? Now, don't get me wrong; he was still very good this year.
Yeah, he just just wasn't 12 strikeouts a game. But so anyway, so for me, like, if they sign, am I going to be upset if they sign Corbin Burns? No, be thrilled to have Corbin Burns in a Red Sox uniform. But for me, just given the trends, I think I would lean a little bit more to Max Fried because I think you can get him for less, probably 1 to 2 less years and significantly less total dollars. But for me, it's like I want the frontline starter, and then this is more so like a question mark of they have to do something in the outfield. So the question is, what do they do with it? There's a backlog about like, are they going to bring back Tyler O'Neill? Like, do you sign Tyler O'Neill to a 3-year, $48 to $50 million contract? Because that's probably what it would take to bring him here. 16, 18 million a year is probably what it would cost.
I would, if I'm going 18, I would just offer him the qualifying offer.
So that's a question mark. Like, okay, so if Tyler O'Neill's back, he's your left fielder. If he's not back, what are you doing left? And then even if you don't sign him, you still have a surplus of outfielders. And eventually you're going to have to figure out what you do with Devers. Because he's not staying at third base long term. The defense is too much of an issue, in my opinion. So it's like, do you trade Tristan Casas now when his value is at its peak to acquire pitching, and you move Devers over and you backfill third? Like, so there's a ton of question marks, but they do need whether they need a right-handed bat, whether it's third base because you've moved Devers over, or maybe you trade Yoshida, Devers goes to DH permanently, and platoons around. But like they need a right-handed bat. Like, I'd almost be happy.
You have a right-handed corner infielder.
Yeah. So I'd almost like, at a bare minimum, I want a frontline starter and a right-handed bat that plays. I mean, I'd even be happy if they went out and they got like, even if it's say it's Tyler O'Neill and a frontline starter, and then maybe you trade for a pitcher. Like, I'd be okay with that.
I mean, there's so many approaches that they can have to it. Obviously, and we've talked about this. You could go down the road of trading for one of the Mariners pitchers or something like that. If I'm the Red Sox,
you love trading with Seattle.
I mean, they just have it's just by far the most logical partner.
Well,
there's also White Sox for Crochet. Is that how you say his name?
I never know.
I don't see it. I mean, I know you have to get in front of it. I know you have to get out in front of it. So they'd really have to believe in Crochet at this point to acquire him. I just don't know if I believe in him as a legit number one, given what the White Sox would want in return for him.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
but the problem is if he becomes a legit number one, well, now he's basically priceless. Like, you're not trading for him unless he's at the end of his arbitration years and they have to pay him, and they're not going to pay him. So now they're going to fleece a team for prospects. Like, you'd have to really believe in him and then get out in front of Crochet before he becomes the guy you believe in, so that you're basically minimizing the trade cost, but then still getting an ace that you believe in.
I think either way, whoever you get as your front, if you do go to frontline starter, again, whether it's someone from Seattle, Crochet, anybody, like, I'd be wary of, or at least what I want Breslow to look at is obviously the stats and like, is he still a frontline starter? Will he be a frontline starter in 3-4 years? But like, what does his makeup too? Like, yeah, the Boston market isn't what it has been in the last 5-10 years because people don't really care anymore. But like, people will eventually care if the team starts doing well. We saw with David Price, he couldn't handle it, and he just became a villain in that, just everyone hated him and he hated us. It was kind of a toxic relationship. So like, whoever we get as our frontline starter and who we're going to make, whether he is a number one or who we want to make him be our number one, like, look at his makeup. Cause like, the last thing you want to do is sign someone, and then you find out later on that he just is a puddle and can't handle, mean questions or the media that's a little tough on him. Like
He's Carl Crawford.
He's Carl Crawford, he's David Price. Like, is Corbin Burns? I don't know, Milwaukee and Baltimore. Those aren't, like, it isn't like he's hitting New York and Boston media. So that's something I'd be wary of. Is this person we're bringing in, paying $100 million per se, going to be able to handle hardball questions?
Yeah, and that, I mean, you look at somebody like Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole went from Pittsburgh to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Worked fine in Houston, and then he went to New York. So, if you can figure that out in the interview process, if a guy's gonna, pee himself anytime somebody throws a hard question at him, then like, who really knows how long he would survive in a market like this? Because again, like, you're gonna fill the stadium if the team's good, but like, you're gonna have to deal with the Dan Shaughnessy's and the Ben Volans of the world, who, if you go out and throw 8 innings of shutout baseball and you lose 1-0, they go, well, why did you give up a run?
You give him 1 run, yeah.
Like those guys don't exist in the.
He was never healthy, so
I'm not too worried. I guess that there's a small worry about being able to handle the Boston market, but I don't know. It's just not really too much of a worry. Sometimes you just don't know, and I guess it happens occasionally. But the priority for me, I think, comes down. We talk about the connection between Giolito, Flaherty, and Max Fried. That connection should not go undervalued.
No,
not so much in the sense that they're going to take some type of major discount to come here or anything like that. But when we talk about trying to attract players here, if we believe that storyline is real, which I do think it is, and you say to Flaherty and Fried and say, Fried, I'll give you 6 years, I don't know, 150. Flaherty, I'll give you 4 years at, I don't know, what's his market? 4 years.
For who?
For Jack Flaherty.
Yeah, like what is?
I think the market
Flaherty's
like 3 at 68.
Yeah, Flaherty's probably. Let's see, how old is Jack Flaherty? 30.
I was gonna say he's only 30 or something like that.
I think he turns 30. Let's see. I'm sorry. He just turned 29 2 weeks ago. So I don't know, 3 or 4 years at 23 a year ish.
All right. So I mean, that obviously the idea of both of them is tough to imagine. But if I'm
because Max Fried's, what was the contract? What did Zach Nola? What did Aaron Nola get for a deal? It's like 27 a year over 6 years. Like, that's probably not 7 years, but that's probably the deal that Max Fried wants. 6 at 27 a year, which I think is 162. My math is correct.
He signed a 7-year 172.
Yeah, so, but they were talking about Nola getting roughly $27 million a season.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I mean, he signed for less per year because Philly gave him the 7th year, which is what he wanted anyway. But that's what you probably get. Like, you figure if you sign Fried and Flaherty, you have to commit probably in terms of total dollars, roughly $50 million a year combined between the two guys for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. So, and give or take, like, and you can also then turn and say, hey, Giolito will tack on a 1-year, $14 million contract to him. And it's basically saying, hey, we're guaranteeing you guys are all three of you are here for the next 2 years. You all three can play together for the next 2 years. Like, that is probably something that they're saying, hey, like, was a dream of ours to all play together. And so I just don't think that should be undervalued heading into free agency. And if I'm the Sox, what is a better way to make a statement? Like, is there realistically any statement that they can make in the offseason that's better than saying Max Fried, Jack Flaherty, you're both Red Sox? Because it would immediately fix the rotation. The rotation's set. You sign those two. You go Fried to Flaherty to Houck to Mayo to Giolito. Like, that is that could be a very good. That could be a very good starting rotation. Then you add Crawford into the mix, who could be a long reliever. You still got a Richard Fitz in the mix. That could be another option. That immediately fixes the entire rotation, completely changes the outlook, and then they just need to. You don't like, yeah, they need another right-handed bat, and they would certainly still need to add one, but it doesn't have to be a guy that you spend big money on either. Like, I mean, they found, they found a Tyler O'Neill for pretty damn cheap last year, if just an example.
Yeah, and in some ways, like if you get Fried and Flaherty, right, that solidifies your rotation. That in some ways takes the need for a righty bat or even just offense, off maybe the top of your leaderboard in terms of offseason priorities, because like the offense was fine last year. It was a rotation that in their bullpen that like just completely got obliterated. So if you have a pitching staff that can actually go deep into games and sustain games and hold leads and everything else, then that again, it takes the need. Again, I'm not going to say if they go out and get those two and another righty bat, that's great, but it definitely makes it less of a must-have and more of like okay, now this is a nice to have. Let's add this to our lineup as opposed to like
Ben. Do you see if you could find what's a contract projection for Suarez, third baseman?
It's funny. So I was doing that as you were talking about it. So, and I'm on take it with a grain of salt because I know that they're not the best at projections. But so I have Spotrek's market value projections for Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso, who are arguably the two best right-handed bats on the market. They've got Alonso at $29 million a year, which is 6 years, $174 million. Bregman at $30 million a year, but on a shorter deal of $120.
Okay. Suarez has a club option.
You asked about Eugenio Suarez.
I think he might have a club option.
Take a look. Eugenio Suarez. He has a club option. His market
so I guess
value
it's probably likely to pick pick that up. Dude hit 30 dingers last year.
Yeah. But he hit like 200.
No, I think he was around 2.
I'll look it up. So assuming he becomes a free agent, his projected contract is $225, so 12.5 a year.
I mean, I would expect him to get more. But that's an example. Like if that's the price range, like that's at a lower level number. And again, like we have all these young bats that are coming up and stuff like that, and they need to maneuver around. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a guy that they go out and spend on.
Yeah, 256 for Suarez last year.
Yeah, you can find a guy again like what they just did with Tyler O'Neill. Like we when they traded for Tyler O'Neill, like okay, that could have not worked out very easily, obviously. But the fact of the matter was, despite some injuries, he was phenomenal when he played. Guy was on like a 45 home run pace playing here. Their priority just 100% needs to be pitching, and then the right-handed bat can be. And it's not to ignore it. Like don't like ignore Soto or Alonso. Like you could talk, and if they're interested in coming here and you like the money, then it's a conversation, obviously. But
yeah, and the tough part with Soto though is Soto doesn't. Now, granted, like you talk about, you got the best player available. Soto doesn't alleviate issues. So if you go not that Soto's high on the list, right? But if you sign Juan Soto, he now becomes your everyday right fielder. So now you have to move Weiler Abreu, or because you're not putting him in center. So you either trade Abreu or you put him in left. I don't know if you want to do that.
I would probably. I don't know if I want Soto in right field.
I mean, he doesn't play anywhere else. He becomes your right fielder.
I would put him in left, I think.
I mean, I don't think Juan Soto comes here to play left field at Fenway.
I don't think Juan Soto really cares as long as he's getting his fucking money.
So
give him the paycheck, and I think he'll be fine. But even if it's left field at home and right field on the road, perhaps. they could mix them. Anyways, yeah, no, I mean, signing Soto would cost obviously a shit ton of money.
About
And it
600 million.
Yeah, it doesn't solve the issue, but it opens up the ability to trade Abreu, maybe Rafaela, maybe Duran, possibly Roman Anthony. Like, I would think if they signed Soto, you would see. I would think both Duran and Abreu gone in deals for pitchers.
And what do you do in center?
I would put
Rafaela?
Rafaela in center. I'd
Okay.
put Soto in left at home and Abreu in right, and maybe swap them two on the road. Or I mean, you could just play.
Yeah, I mean you can play Soto in left. He was exclusively a left fielder in San Diego.
Yeah, so there you go.
154 games, and then Washington. Once he became a full-time player, he was a right fielder in Washington.
Yeah, I would not in the event that Soto ever became a Red Sox, I would be putting him in the left. I don't like the idea. Not that he's like some bum in the outfield, but I don't really want him playing Fenway right field, especially considering that we have Duran, who has become a good defensive outfielder, Abreu, who is a Gold Glove caliber outfielder, and Roman Anthony, who I would say projects to be at least a plus defender, like at least a solid above average defensive outfielder. I just don't have. But anyways, I don't want to jump too much on the Soto train because that's like in the dream scenario. But anyways, all right, let's wrap this Bad Larry up. We got our state your takes for this week. You ready? All right, Zach, let's hit it with yours.
So I can go. Mine's going to be Bruins related. I know we didn't get to that today, but start to the Bruins season has been abysmal, to say the least. I'm going to say that this keeps up. Montgomery will not finish the season as the Bruins head coach.
I mean, I think it could be soon if they
just canceled their practice in Philadelphia today. I mean, they lost 2 games to just somehow worse teams to them. They lost to, I don't know if Nashville was undefeated or was over before they beat us, but they started the season 0-5. And then Philadelphia just has the worst defense, and we didn't get a goal against them. So something's got to be done. I mean, I'm on record as saying I'm not a Brad Marchand guy, so I think there's something to be said there too. But Montgomery has gotten consistently. It's just been the same problems over and over. The defense doesn't pinch when they need to. The defense doesn't, they're all over the place. I just think they've kind of lost focus and they've lost looks like the will to play for him. So I could see it happening sooner than later. But yeah, I don't see them finishing the season if there isn't drastic changes. I think it could be done within the next 2 weeks if this continues.
I would say if this slide continues over the next 10 days, he's out.
Yeah,
I would be shocked if he lasts 2 more weeks.
I would agree.
Yeah, Ben, how about you? You got one?
Yeah, not crazy or anything, but I think that you'll see the toughness prevail. Drake Maye will be cleared and will play Sunday. And you'll see him go for over 250, 2 touchdowns, and I think the Patriots win by 10 or more points.
Ooh, 10 and more. All right. If Drake Maye plays, I would expect them to win. So I would not be shocked by that. For myself, I'll stick with the Patriots related. I'll go Javon Baker to catch a touchdown pass this weekend.
They were on the depth chart all year because apparently he's got frying pans for hands, but I like it.
Mayo seems to be hinting at the idea that he could get some playing time this year. I mean, this game.
Oh, this year.
Hopefully this year. But this weekend, no L'Jarius Sneed. I don't know how much he'll play, but I think he's a big body, potential end zone, red zone target. I don't know. It's a gut feeling. Javon Baker, even if he plays limited times, finds his way, maybe a deep ball. drop a dime so we can all kind of have to go change our pants, from May to Baker. But yeah, Javon Baker, first touchdown of the career. Maybe does he have a catch? No, does he have
I
one?
don't think he's like even played offense, has he?
I think he has like
Sparingly, yeah.
5 snaps or something. I don't think he has a complete catch yet, right? Ben, you looking it
Javon
up?
Baker has in 3 games. He has touched the ball 1 time. It was a 17-yard kick return in the Jets game.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought he played like 5 snaps or something like that early in the year offensively.
Yeah, he has no targets.
Okay. All right. So maybe not the first career catch, but he gets his first career catch in it maybe ends up being a touchdown this weekend, and we'll get a better idea. Maybe I just want to see him out there. I said it earlier. I think that they should. People think I have this agenda against Kendrick Bourne, and I really don't. Maybe a little, but I don't really. It's the young guys, Douglas, Booty, Baker, Polk. Like, I want to see what they can be for parts of the future.
Yeah.
And so nothing against Bourne, but he's not a major part of the future of this team.
I mean, Daniel Judgeport says the Patriots trading him in a 6th-round draft pick for Jordan Addison.
Yeah, the super reliable Daniel Judgeport.
Yeah.
Judgeport. All right. That's going to do it for this week. We'll be back. We'll see. Maybe next week. I'm getting married next weekend. Officially. I'm technically already married, but ceremonial.
Sham, that's what it is.
Yeah. Next week down in Mexico.
Yeah, maybe we'll come to you live from the Mexican golf course. You're like, here we are. Wait a minute. Matt's going to tee off. Everyone watch.
So we might be off for a week or two. I'm going to try to figure it out. But if not, at the latest, we'll be back later in November. Ben and I are trying to drum up a potential nice guest on the way.
Oh, I was like, where are you going with this? What are you coming up in Mexico that I don't know about yet?
But we'll see. We'll talk about it if things get more concrete on that. But all right, until next time, we're Raise the Banner. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
See you guys.
See ya.